My eyes, please make it stop. Make it stop. Guys and girls, we have a breaking news announcement from President Trump that made everything that we experienced, the horrible events that we experienced over the past 48 hours, absolutely obsolete. About 40 minutes ago, President Trump posted over on Truth Social saying, "Don't worry about China. It will all be fine. Highly respected President Xi just had a bad moment. He doesn't want a depression for his country, and neither do I. The USA wants to help China, not hurt it. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. President DJT." So I'm sitting here and wondering, was everything that we went through over this weekend for absolutely nothing? Like, what was the incentive? What was the incentive on posting that there's going to be 100% tariffs on China November the 1st on a Friday night post-market close when everybody's either sleeping in the Middle East or in Asia? The markets are not liquid. The stock market is closed. So the only thing that's going to absorb any sort of news is going to be the crypto markets. And because of that lack of liquidity, you experience cascading liquidations that send leveraged altcoins to the floor. Like, what was the point if there was going to be nothing anyways? And that's the thing, like on Friday, I was pretty confident that this tariff news wasn't going to cause any sort of serious implication to the markets because of TACO. Like, it's just the tariffs are a negotiation strategy that is done by President Trump to get what he wants in a sort of deal, right? And it's worked. It's worked for him in multiple ways. He was able to end various amounts of wars thanks to the tariffs. He's gotten a pretty good deal with different countries thanks to tariffs. So overall, like it's worked out pretty well for him, and I give him praise. But I'm just like, it doesn't make sense why the markets are so scared after President Trump being the president for now 10 months. Like, how is nobody used to this? And why did we see what took place on Friday? It's unnatural. It cannot be caused from tariff news. That's why we broke down my opinions, and it was a huge leverage attack. It was a massive attack on leverage. And that's why only leveraged pairs experienced significant wicks, whereas spot pairs on Coinbase and Bitstamp, they didn't see the amount of huge wicks, candlestick wicks to the downside as the margin-enabled pairs. But anyways, it was incredibly painful. It was very, very painful, and I wish I stated and emphasized in my video. I just wanted to do like a little bit of a jokey start. But yeah, that aside, I do wish that everybody's doing better today. It was incredibly painful, and there is nothing else to do but to laugh it off. It was horrible, but what to do, right? Markets don't really care about our emotions, sadly. And when it comes to the tariff debacle, I think it's spelled debacle, but I think it's pronounced debacle. You can see that President Trump has mentioned, don't worry about China, it will all be fine. It will all be fine. And I expect that traditional finance, we had some post-market futures trading available on the stock market, and those, just like crypto, went down a lot. But I would presume that the S&P futures, when they open, they're going to see a sharp recovery. And actually, when they do open, most of the dumpage experienced on Friday is likely going to be reverted. That will all be announced and decided upon on tomorrow's markets. If I check SPY, I don't think the pre-market futures trading is live yet, but we can check SPY. Yeah, SPY is closed. So SPY is closed. Tomorrow we'll find out if the markets really like this post from President Trump or not. But the crypto markets certainly did, because on the day, we're up about 20-ish% on some of the altcoins, 15 to 7% on the rest of the altcoins. On the hour, we're up approximately 1 to 3% following President Trump's tweet. So the crypto markets are liking it. But overall, you're still not at levels that we were pre the announcement of the 100% tariff. So it has 1 billion% left a scar on crypto. We haven't yet been able to recover to levels that we were seeing pre-tariff announcement on Friday. If we go to a Cardano, for example, Cardano is has been rallying over the past few hours here, and is also up following President Trump's tweet. But when you go to the daily time frame, this was when we got the 100% China tariff news, and then the markets did this on the margin enabled spot pairs, and then you saw the recovery, right? So we're still not above where we were before, but I think it's a good start. It's a good double candlestick formation on some of these altcoins. I like this reversal candle. I like this double candlestick formation. It is a formation that usually precedes a further move back upwards, but obviously we're not even halfway through the daily Friday candle close. This wick still traumatizes me. It still gives me massive amounts of PTSD. So we're going to go through the market today. We're going to go through the Ethereum charts, the Bitcoin charts. We covered Ethereum in more detail, but I think it's good to highlight on this stream too. And I would love to know how you guys are doing. So let me know in the chats if everybody is fine. Hopefully that's the case. I was able to take a little bit of a rest today. I mean, I just, strolled across my neighborhood for a good 3 hours. Walking really helped. And then on Saturday morning, I did yoga and meditation for the first time because, I've not really lost this much over such a short period of time before. And, it sucks, right? Overall, we're still up. I'm still up. And that's good. But, when you lose good amounts of money and there is nothing that you can have done about it, it just doesn't feel good. So I try my best to relax and to sort of, put those bad thoughts away and focus on eliminating the emotions and look at what's ahead of us. It's a very tough thing to do, incredibly tough thing to do. And it comes down to one fundamental thing of believing that money is just, from a holistic point of view, it's just monetary energy, and energy is, it's only transferred, right? So it's never lost. The money was transferred in this case to mostly market makers, right? But money comes, money goes. That's what I'm trying to say. And the most important thing is health, and the most important thing is family. And those are in check. So I'm very grateful about that. And I think we just need to look at the matches ahead of us and not give up, because the moment you give up, then it's over. But if you don't give up and you're still at it, then you always have a probability of becoming even more successful than where you were financially before a bad event happened to you. And I do believe that that's going to be the case for us, because this liquidation event was horrible. It got rid of everything. But because it happened, I think it's also going to enable the most hated crypto rally over the next few weeks to months. Liquidating everyone, then causing prices to go to new all-time highs would be really annoying. And I think the most annoying option here is going to be the most likely option. I did age a little bit, and I think we all aged quite a bit over Friday and Saturday. But I believe that with the taco event, which means that tariffs are just, it's a nothing burger, and it was just an economic weapon, or an economic negotiation tool, let's say. Let's not, for crypto it was more sort of a weapon, but a negotiation tool. I think there's going to be some sort of deal announcement quite soon, and it's all going to be a nothing burger. So you would have liquidated all the markets, and then you had to new all-time highs, causing the rally to be incredibly hated. That's ultimately what I think is going to end up happening. And I think a lot of people agree on Twitter. I posted this tweet and it got pretty good engagement. I think a lot of people agree with that concept. Remember Ethereum. Everybody hated Ethereum for so long. Everybody lost hope on Ethereum. It was horrible. We were so confident that Ethereum was going to break to new all-time highs at that point. And then Ethereum comes home to 1.5K, which Benjamin Cohen predicted incredibly on this channel, the rally that we preceded afterwards. And we were able to jump into so many positions, longing Ethereum all the way up. But I remember this being a horrible time because all of our hopes were just lost on Ethereum itself. From a cycle perspective, if we look back at it in hindsight, it wouldn't have made sense to go into altcoin season in December of 2024 anyways. That was when Bitcoin dominance dumped to 55% and we had a small altcoin rally. It wouldn't have made sense, but we were at resistance. It was looking good, and then all of our hopes and dreams got crushed and everybody hated Ethereum. And as soon as everybody hated Ethereum, Ethereum started to produce massive amounts of gains. And sadly, I think that's what's going to happen to the altcoin market after seeing a very large liquidation event, after taking altcoins to levels that they were at last year in 2024, some even worse. You go to Cardano, that was at levels that we experienced in 2024, but you go to Trump coin, for example, Trump USDT, I don't know if anybody actually holds Trump coin in this community, but I wouldn't think so. That went to $1. There was another coin called Atom USDT that saw this wick. It went to 0 over a 10-minute period. So yeah, some altcoins went back to where they were in 2024, but some altcoins rugged and then came back alive, which I still cannot understand how this happened. It just doesn't make sense. It was the biggest liquidation event in history for cryptocurrencies. And I think there has to be a proper investigation to market makers and into the large exchanges, because tariffs, I know they're bad, but they're not bad enough to cause what happened on Friday. And it gets me angry the more that I think about it, because like I said, like there was just, when you feel like there was nothing you could have done about it, but it's still painful, it just hurts a little bit more for me. And I think there has to be a serious investigation done into these market makers, into these large exchanges, and also into that person that shorted Bitcoin all the way up to President Trump's announcement. Minutes before President Trump's tariff announcement, there was an individual shorting with a bunch of leverage and tens of millions of dollars. You know, the puzzle, the pieces don't add up. It doesn't add up. But it sucks that, you know, at least you would have wanted this to have happened for something. But now you see that this whole tariff situation is likely a nothing burger, which, yeah, I mean, that would have been the thought beforehand. It turns out that it, you know, that's what ended up happening. And I think that next week markets will likely see a bounce as there's some sort of an announcement, hopefully, of a trade deal or some sort. But things look good at this moment in time. But let's do some Bitcoin analysis. Let's go through some Ethereum analysis. I know I've already uploaded a video just about 2 hours ago, but I thought it would be nice to go live, chat to the audience, see how everybody's doing, and talk about Bitcoin, because we didn't really talk too much about the Bitcoin analysis. I focused on Ethereum. But how is the chat doing? How is everyone? Let's see what everybody's up to. Javi, the barber, says, nice haircut, bro. Thank you so much. Cisco Kid, great to see Cisco Kid in the chat. It's been a while since I've seen you, man. Yeah, I know. I'm down 70% on the portfolio. How the heck to resume? I know it's. I mean, I've lost good money, but most of my portfolio, about 65, I would say, to 70%, was in spot. And I was sleeping, so I wasn't doing any panic trading. But I mean, the positions that I had open, apart from Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana, they were gone. I know that some people were affected even more severely, and it's very tough. It's incredibly tough. It's really, really tough. But there is no other chance than to keep going. There's nothing else to do. Like I'm thinking very hard, and there's nothing else to do but to keep going and to remain persistent. It's a very tough thing to do. It's an incredibly tough thing to do. I've not hit 0 before financially yet, and it could happen in the future. You never know. But I've hit 0 in just, I felt very low. There was points where I felt incredibly low in my life, lost belief in what I was doing. And those were tough times, incredibly tough times. But do you just give up? No, you don't, because you have to keep going. And that is the only thing to do. And that's the smartest thing to do, to keep going, because you can always build back things and make things better. Giving up is when you actually fail. And that's the only time where the probability of you succeeding goes to 0. So giving up is never a choice. You have to keep going no matter how much it hurts. And as long as health and as long as family, as long as they are okay, everything else could be made back. So I can sympathize. I know how bad it must feel. But there is sadly nothing to do but to keep going. It's going to be tough, but it will pay dividends if we can remain consistent and persistent over the next few months. And that's what I truly believe from the bottom of my heart. No, so Gabriel says, no way, in the market is important not to lose more than to continue earning. Yep. We have to continue. I agree. We have to continue. Yeah, I really do have a lot of sympathy for everyone. Again, I wasn't fully, I had most of my portfolio, majority of my portfolio in spot, but for people that have most of them in leverage, like I can imagine a lot of my friends around me, they had most of their portfolios in leverage. And I know how tough it is for them, and I can sympathize with you also. It's it's really tough. It's just really tough. There's not much more to say apart from it's incredibly tough. But we have to keep going. That's what I believe. It's very easy to say, it's very hard to do. I know, and I've been there, not from a financial perspective, but from other perspectives, but it pays dividends. Dr. Zoma says, absolutely, the market will recover. The moment you give up is the absolute point of failure. I agree. And markets, it looks like through President Trump's announcement, they are going to recover. This was a nothing burger. It's super sad that we went through this entire thing not for a purpose apart from hurting people, right? From a financial point of view with leverage positions, but there was no other purpose to it, and it has appeared to be a nothing burger, and it's super sad that that's the case. But it does look like markets will recover. If you look at crypto, all of these projects, at least in the top projects, they're still doing what they're set out to do. And this was an external event. Crypto, the technology, the adoption, they're still on track. Everything is still on track. This was an external event. So when you go into Cardano, when it went to the 0.29 level, Cardano didn't stop innovating. Cardano didn't stop building. Nothing went wrong with Cardano itself. It was just an external event. And we spoke a lot about how history repeats for Cardano specifically. You have the downward sloping trend line, you have the downward sloping trend line, and then you have the downward sloping trend line. Personally, I had some low leverage positions, but it didn't matter with this wick, obviously, that I wanted to scale into more if we were to see that break from that downward sloping trend line, because I still do believe that history is going to repeat as soon as we break above that trend line. So my plan was, and it still is, I'm going to go back into those positions slowly. I just want to see how next week sort of opens up for the rest of the altcoins. Ethereum I went into again, but for the rest of the altcoins, I just want to see how next week opens up. As soon as this trend line is broken to the upside, then I'm going to be adding more into Cardano, because I ultimately believe that we're going to follow what's happened before. Sui, that was another one that went to levels that we haven't seen since last year. Sui USDT, a project that's building, a project that there's so many projects on it. I was in Token 2049. They were running the Sui Fest simultaneously. I mean, Sui is building. They're still functional. There's nothing wrong with Sui. But the price went down because of this external event. Now, does that mean I'm going to give up on Sui? I don't think it should. I don't think it should mean that I give up on Sui now because of what happened, which was an external event. It was a horrible external event. But is it Sui's fault? It's not Sui's fault. So there's again a pathway of choice here. Do I give up on Sui and do I just quit? Or do I still have conviction in Sui and continue with whatever I have left? Do I still keep it in Sui and wait for altcoin season, which I know is a very traumatic phrase to a lot of people, including myself now, but I still believe it's going to take place. And I think when it does take place, naturally, everybody is going to hate it. It's going to become the most hated rally in crypto history. So do I, A, blame everything on Sui and not keep capital in Sui, or do I still keep my positions, my holdings, and start to re-enter when we see that breakout? I'm going to go with the latter. I'm going to stay in Sui, because wicks, when it comes to patterns, when it comes to pattern trading, wicks don't matter. The only thing that matters is the candle body closure, and the candle body is still intact within this bullish pennant. So I'm still expecting Sui to go up. But yeah, that's the sort of analysis on my top altcoins. AVAX, still believe in AVAX. Was this horrible for AVAX? Yes, absolutely. Just like every other altcoin, apart from really Solana and BNB. Solana was able to hold up very well. We're going back over the support line on the weekly and daily time frame, which is currently at $200. That's also great news. We have the huge cup and handle on Solana. So it doesn't mean that I've lost hope on Solana and I'm not going to hold it for the targets of this huge cup and handle pattern. No, it doesn't mean that. It's tough. I know. The past 72 hours to 48 hours was very tough. It was very tough. It was very traumatic, but doesn't mean I lose hope on Solana and not hold until altcoin season. No, it doesn't mean that. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to slowly move on. It's a tough process, but I'm slowly trying to move on, focus on the upcoming matches ahead, and look at the goods, the better few months that's ahead of us, because we still have M2 money supply going up. We still have M2 money supply going up. We still have that delay between M2 money supply and the crypto market charts, which focuses on altcoins mostly. There's still that delay. We still have those patterns that we have, the rising wedge, which for M2 money supply was able to see a break to the upside, and that foreshadows a break to the upside for the total crypto cap market, but with the delay also the total 3 crypto cap market. Like, all of those are still in play. All of those are still in play. It's just because we had this huge liquidation event, it's going to cause a lot of hatred when we do see that move to the upside. And that hatred will be felt to the people that feel emotional about it, which I definitely feel emotional. Again, it's a very easy thing to say, very hard thing to do. But, you know, trading is all about eliminating those emotions as much as possible. That's the way to become successful. So that's my thoughts on the greater macro picture. Now, when it comes to Bitcoin, and then I'll get into your questions. When it comes to Bitcoin, let's go to the daily time frame. Where did my analysis go? Was it on the Bitcoin USD chart? There it is. So when we go into Bitcoin, we actually did end up closing the CME gap on the spot price. But the thing is, most people make that mistake. You have to close the CME gap on the CME charts. The CME chart is still closed. It's going to open in roughly 4 hours time. And I think, first of all, the CME gap from September is going to close at $111,000 now. I think the probability just jumped from, you know, being there to now massively probable. I think we're going to close that. And then there's a second CME gap open at 113. So price will likely drift around this range in market open. And then I think we predominantly see a bounce. If we go to the Bitcoin USD charts, we hit the value area low of the volume profile. We drew those lines before the massive crash happened on Friday. So we're bouncing from the value area lower bound at $111,000, the CME gap. I think it's likely we retrace to it again to close it on the CME charts. And then we see a bounce and try to head towards 117 and see what we can do from that level onwards. But that's the very quick take on the Bitcoin markets. I'm curious to see how the S&P is going to open. Hopefully, President Trump's tweets from about now 45 to 50 minutes ago, I hope that will help the S&P open and it won't cause too much of an increased drawdown at market open for the cryptocurrency market. But I think the worst is behind us, and that's what truly matters from this moment onwards. And that's the take I have on Bitcoin. So let me go through your questions and see what you guys are saying in the chat. Let's go through what you guys are saying. Thank you, Cisco Kid. Very appreciate it. Is another black swan possible? Well, you know, you never know. And I know it feels a bit traumatic now because when you have one black swan event, you question, okay, is there going to be another one? And the truth is, you never know. It's like, can something tragic happen to you tomorrow? It's not possible. I mean, it could happen, right? I had a very bad go-kart injury where I got a concussion for like 4 months. And this was last year in October. So exactly a year ago, I was doing go-kart racing and I injured my neck pretty bad and I actually got a concussion from it. And in real life terms, I think that's a pretty big black swan event. So when that happens to you, then you get extra conscious about potential negative things happening to you. So that was a black swan event where it was a very anomalous thing because I've never had a concussion at that size ever in my life. I've never injured my neck. So that happened once in 17 years. But because it happened and it was a horrible experience, now I have the scare that it's going to happen again. But the truth is, it only happened once in 17 years. So you see what I'm trying to say? It's always possible that something can happen, but the probabilities are always low of such black swan events. Kappa was calling for a black swan in May or March. And he's saying that, yeah, I told you guys, but there is like a 6-month difference. There's 6 months of price action. So black swans can always happen, but it's anomalous. It's anomalous, and you can never predict it. And when it happens, you just need to deal with it. I think that's the best way to put it. Bluegrass says, I got some Sui at the $2 dump. Amazing. CryptoBurger says, only invest what you're willing to lose. Rule number 1. And yes, that's in risk management. When you study risk management, that is essentially rule number 1. You don't want to, even like if you go to a casino, not that I've been to a casino, but if you go to a casino, like you need to put in money that you're essentially, like from my point of view, you need to see that money as it's gone, right? And casino and investing is not the same thing. But if you are risking money, then you need to be comfortable with it, that it's going to, that you'll be okay even if it's gone. It's like, I think a better example is when you lend money to somebody that wants money from you. I think it's an important rule overall to, when you do lend money to someone, you need to assume that that money is gone. And even if it's gone, you should be okay with it, you know. And in risk management, for investing, it's different. I think for trading, it makes more sense. For trading, you need to risk money in trades that essentially, if it is gone, then you should still be okay. And that's something that I've learned. And it's a very important rule, right? I think that's a good one to bring up. And it's not comparing the casino to trading. It's two very different things. It's when you go and start doing 100x leverage, yeah, that's casino. But if you are risk managing well, and if you're doing things the way that it makes sense from a mathematical point of view, then it makes sense, right? But in an event like this, even 2x leverage positions, they got wiped. And that's why there's just simply, you know, whatever you could have prepared, deleveraging, etc. Like it just, what could have we done that would have stopped it? I can't think of anything, and it hurts. It's painful, but we have to keep going. Just going through the comments. Yeah, I saw. So the insider whale that shorted pre-Trump speech, they actually opened another short position, which is kind of scary, but it could be like an alibi, you know, to make it appear as though that they weren't an insider. Maybe they're doing a short position for that. Capo's been calling for a black swan since 2023. Yeah, exactly. Gabriel says, I said that I think here just to have an automatic trade open when these flash crashes happen. Could it be done, CryptoKid? Yeah, you know, what I think is, I think it's always good to actually have limit orders at like bear market lows for altcoins, just in case, in the event that something like what happened on Friday, God forbid, happens again, then you have these limit positions at bear market lows for them to go ahead and trigger. And you can actually do that. There is a way that you can do that. So if I go to weeks, I can show you that if you go to futures, I'm going to share my screen in a second. Let's see here. So if you go to weeks, right? If you go to weeks, then, by the way, all of our Bitcoin positions, still, all of them are profitable. If we go to Ethereum, all of our Ethereum positions are still profitable. So if you've been opening these positions, DCing, it also shows the value of DCAing, because most of these trades, we just went in, we've DCA'd over time. Ethereum, I've been longing since 1.5, 1.6, 2.2, 3, 3.2, 3.9. So all of our Ethereum positions and Bitcoin positions are still in profit, and those made up the majority of my account. I had a few smaller altcoin positions, and unfortunately those are gone, right? But if you can balance them well with DCA'd in positions, then obviously in a total scale, you're still up, and that's what matters when you're trading. So essentially what you can do is you can go to a limit, and let's say we wanted to set a limit order for Ethereum. Not that Ethereum is going to likely have a flash crash to 1.5, but just hypothetically, if you wanted to do a limit order, this applies to every single cryptocurrency. You can say, okay, 1,501. I don't like to do whole numbers, like $1,500. Like, I mean, big whole numbers. It's just in order books, they don't tend to fill. But let's say 1,500 is where I want to open a limit order at, and you can do 1,501, and then you can do multiple. Like let's say between 1,500 and 1,600, you can do 20 limit orders, and then you put the amount in USDT, you click open long, and then it's just going to create an order. And if at any time Ethereum decides to drop to that price level, that order is going to be triggered. So you can do the same theoretically with every single altcoin. And by the way, I just remembered, I think today is the final day of the trading competition. So in 21 hours time, the final round of prizes that we're giving away, which is equivalent to 500 USDT, that's going to be given tomorrow. So the person with the highest trading volume is going to win the first place prize, and then second place, third place, even fourth to sixth place, and seventh to 10th place. There's always rewards to be given out. So if you want to join the trading competition, the final day of it, the first link is in the description down below. And on Pinex, quite interestingly, none of my positions faced liquidation. That was what was pretty cool, because none of my positions on Pinex trading bots got liquidated. We were doing very low leverage there, 2-3x maximum, and it was buying the dip throughout the entire crash, which I found pretty amazing. I'm going to drop a tutorial video about Pinex this week, because like all of my other positions on smaller altcoins, they were gone, but my Pinex trading bots were still alive. That was pretty cool. I mean, what was the point of, so somebody says, Crazy Game says, I mean, what was the point of all that on Friday night when stocks are closed? It doesn't make sense. I mean, Friday night, post-market close is probably, apart from maybe Saturday night Saturday night, like it's just the most illiquid time. Like, why would you do that? It doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense. I completely agree with you. It doesn't make sense. And tomorrow, the ETF flows will be interesting to see too. Let's see what the ETFs produce. I'm not looking forward to them. Monday and Tuesday ETF flow data is likely going to be horrible. The thing is, even if you did do stop losses, because the price is falling so sharply, there is no time to fill in all of the bids and asks in the order book. So whenever price is falling so sharply down, it's quite likely that your stop loss doesn't get triggered to its maximum. It's happened to me so many times. When price is pumping so much, it's the same thing with take profits. If price is going up so much, then what happens is, like those orders for the bids and asks, they keep like getting refreshed instantaneously, and you jump a few of those bids and asks. So the take profit actually can't happen if the price is going up so much. Sometimes it does happen, but if it's like a huge drop or a huge pump, oftentimes your stop loss and take profit is going to be missed. That's something to keep in mind also. Yeah, so yeah, the GPS, the bot is alive. I'll show you tomorrow. The bot is alive. I think I spoke about it yesterday with Carl on the Moon Show live stream. Like the bots are alive. The bots are alive, and they've been buying the dip. It's incredible. Advice for everyone that lost everything invested. Okay, so again, this is a serious one, right? If you have a passive income flow, right? So if you have a job or if you have a business that you're generating passive income, what I do is I generate passive income, and then a portion of whatever I make, and it's quite a significant portion. Like I'm somebody that doesn't spend much. So I invest a significant portion of what I make into Bitcoin, Ethereum, and so far 10 other altcoins. A majority is 10 altcoins that I've, liked. That includes Solana, Cardano, Dogecoin, AVAX, whatever. Like you guys know those altcoins. I just invest in them on a monthly basis whenever I make my income. And then there's a portion of my overall spot portfolio, and that's about like a 10-15% of it that I do trading with. But 85% is in spot. Now with this specific time, I was allocating more into altcoins, so the percentage was a little bit higher than usual, unfortunately, right? But the trading portfolio is always a small majority of the spot portfolio. The best way to make money in the markets is to just, historically proven, right, is to just continuously buy every single day, every single week, every single month. It's just on a periodic basis. You buy, and those buys compound over time. If you had invested in the S&P 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, at all of those time intervals, you would be in profits. But if you, on top of just investing and then leaving it there, if you would have invested on a passive basis with a percentage of the money you make, then those investment earnings then compound and you actually end up making more money, right? So what I do is I invest the passive income I make into the Bitcoin, the Ethereum, and then recently into the stock market also when I turned 18. So into the stock market too. And then a percentage of that, a smaller percentage, I allocate to trading. And that trading portfolio, like I said earlier, if it's gone, I'm going to get annoyed about it. It's going to hurt, but I'll be fine, right? And that's the approach that I would perhaps look into for next time. But the important thing is, if you have a passive income, if you have a job, it's okay because money keeps coming in and you can build everything. If you don't have a job or if you don't have a business, then first thing to do is to invest in skills. First thing to do is invest in information and knowledge, and then start working somewhere in an industry where you truly like and you're passionate about. Start working for free, start giving value, then get a job. Then obviously the passive income comes in, and then you can start investing. And then obviously at some point down the line, your investments will outpace the actual income you make if you do passive strategies with them. And then you can also do a side business, so on and so forth. So that's the overall path to financial freedom. But if you're looking for a blueprint, that's the blueprint that I would mention. Yeah, so there was actually different wicks on each cryptocurrency exchange. Like even Bitcoin, the largest cryptocurrency, there was a huge arbitrage between certain exchanges. That's insane. Like Bitcoin is a $2.5 trillion asset. The fact that, this was happening in 2020, in 2017, you did have arbitrages, small ones. But on Friday night, there was huge arbitrages, which means that on one exchange, Bitcoin was at 110, and then on another exchange, Bitcoin was at 108. Like that can't happen. It's insane. Something crazy has to take place for such arbitraging to occur. And most exchanges, they use the same market makers, but some of them, they use different market makers. And the ones that did have different market makers, during that time of cascading liquidations, it makes sense that prices were skewed a little bit. But, yeah, the more I remember the event, the more angry I get, actually. Anyways. But in spot portfolio, taxes eat you. Well, it depends on the country that you're located and depends on the taxes, right? I'm grateful that in the country that I live in, taxation is very much limited. Cisco Kid, yes, guys, let's please keep the chat clean and respectful. Yeah. Thank you so much for moderating, by the way. Very much appreciate you, dude. But guys, yeah, that's pretty much it for me. I just wanted to come in here and talk about President Trump's tweets. And then tomorrow we'll do another video. And then we'll have the live stream on the Moon Show. I definitely recommend checking out my latest video that I posted about 2 hours ago on Ethereum. I wanted to do some Ethereum analysis, but really I spoke about it a lot and all the details on why I'm very bullish into Ethereum and why I bought back into Ethereum even more. I mean, I've always had Ethereum, but I bought in more into it. So if you want to check that video out, it's the most recent one that I uploaded. I'll leave the link in the live chats. Definitely go ahead and watch it. I think Ethereum looks very cool, and Benjamin Cohen will be on the channel hopefully this week too to give his predictions on Ethereum. He's been accurate by like almost 100%, so make sure to check that video out. I'm going to pin it in the live chats. If you want to join the trading competition before it is over, the link is down below for weeks. Also, you can join the trading competition. It's going to be the final day where we give away the prizes. tens and dozens of people have earned prizes throughout the entirety of this trading competition. So if you want to join in for the last day, the first link is in the description down below. Guys and girls, thank you so much for coming in. Again, just try to let go of it, of what happened 48 hours ago. That's what I'm personally aiming to do. It's tough, but I was keeping myself very busy over the past 2 days. I did yoga for the first time. I'm doing cycling tomorrow, probably early morning. Like, just trying to get over it is the only thing that we can do, because giving up is when you ultimately fail. And if you don't give up, then you're always having that probability to be very successful, and even way more successful than where you were before at that point of dip in your life. So thanks so much for watching. Take care, guys, and I'll see you all tomorrow on the channel. Bye-bye.